For more on International Women's Day, we're joined by Imani Cheers here in Washington. She's an associate professor of digital storytelling at George Washington University. Imani, great having you. And which are the most pressing issues for women and girls in developing countries across the globe today?
Absolutely, Diego. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I think many of the most pressing issues for women and girls in developing countries really start with conflict. Safety is one of the #1 issues for women and girls. I think about and did my graduate research in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Eastern Congo is seeing and has been for honestly the last 25 years a major rise in conflict that really started with the Rwandan genocide. So it's really, really tragic. We have Sudan currently has a major crisis and conflict. So war is what's really impacting. And of course, we can't forget, women and girls and children in particular living in the Middle East and Yemen and Palestine, who are all really impacted. So security is the #1 issue.
And I'd like to expand on this because which do you see as the key issues that are challenging us right now, especially looking at the withdrawal of USAID presence in many countries?
Absolutely. It has been catastrophic. What many individuals and corporations realized is that USAID had been doing really crucial and essential work throughout the developing world. And immediately on January 20th, all of that aid, much aid, that was already pre-approved by the previous Congress before Donald Trump administration took over, that we saw that all those programs were halted. And we're talking about programs that do everything from provide essential maternal health care for women, but also prevention against everything from HIV and AIDS to malaria. So we're seeing really in parts of the world where a number of programs have been helping to stabilize some of these regions, in particular around international development. We've seen everything be chaotic now. And so there's many programs that have halted, many will not continue. And until some of this aid is actually returns to these programs, it's really a dire situation.
Imani, I would like to direct your attention towards technology, right? Because I'd like to know what stands in the way of women in some parts of the world from accessing the technology they need.
Yeah, you know what? It's actually something as really simple as what we are all so blessed and fortunate to live with right now, and that's just access to electricity. I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa, and this was before they had rolling blackouts, which has been a situation that has really plagued the country for about the last decade. And so when people think, well, what's a rolling blackout? And it's exactly what you think. It's throughout a 24-hour period that there are times when there isn't electricity. So when you think of places, access, yes, to technology, but we think of like if we have a smartphone, most of us rely on our chargers, right? Our phones are not supposed to last infinite amounts of time. And so if you don't have access to electricity, if you don't have access to stable Wi-Fi, if you don't have access, if you live in a rural community, if you live in a rural village, how are you supposed to have access to those? We also look at the educational systems, right? And so education, a lot of us, where we learn to become literate, where we learn critical thinking skills, when we learn personal hygiene skills, a lot of that comes from early childhood and elementary education. And we've seen in a lot of instances, especially communities that are facing conflict from not only human wars, but also things like climate change. And we have famine and we have other things where people are fleeing. We currently have some of the largest refugee populations in the world currently in Central, North Africa, East Africa, as well as in the Middle East. And don't even get me started when we start looking at other parts of Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent. And so when we really think about how we can impact and how we can focus on these vulnerable populations, it starts with security, it starts with safety, and then you can start having access to not only education, but continuous education.
And as technology evolves and algorithms touch more and more different parts of our lives, how has this helped women's rights movements?
Well, what I study and teach actually at George Washington University is the way in which social media can be used as a tool of engagement, a tool of empowerment, and also a tool of education. So taking, for example, the crisis, the genocide in Gaza, and the fact that there were so many individuals, Bizan, which is one of the, she actually received a number of international awards for her coverage, a young journalist living on in the Gaza Strip who was able to use social media to educate, to inform individuals globally about what was her everyday perspective living in the besieged enclave since obviously the tragedy of October 8th, 2023, and how that has progressed. So we're seeing the way social media can be used as a tool to inform. And so when you have information that you can share, then you can, advocacy comes from that. And then we're starting to have larger conversations about access to everything from safety, security, but even some of the basic things that women need, such as menstrual products, right? Such as products that they need postpartum. And so when we're having that information, we're having access, when women can access an app that will tell them and help to provide information, critical health information during their maternity cycle, that we're seeing that really makes a huge difference.
Imani Cheers, thank you so much.